Bob Fosse's Star 80. Look, I just saw it as a pretty snazzy, entertaining, poppy movie, galvanized by what I thought was a tour de force performance by Eric Roberts. That was not only what I thought was a great performance, but I'm positive, was actually my favorite performance of that year. And I even remember to the degree that, to me, it was a shoo-in that Roberts would be nominated for a Best Actor, but I thought he was going to win. I thought, well, if he gets nominated, he will win. And he didn't even get nominated. And I actually thought it was like the biggest crime of all the Academy non-nominations of the 80s at that year was Roberts being ignored.
The Psycho 2 sequel. I think, not only do I think Anthony Perkins is even better, as great as he is in Psycho, I think he's even better in Psycho 2. I think it's one of the great lead performances in any horror film ever made, his performance in Psycho 2. I mean, it's just a magnificent performance. You're rooting for Norman to keep it together. You're rooting for Norman to be sane, to be happy. You're actually rooting for him to be happy.
Moneyball, at the end of the day, the reason that it stayed with me is Brad Pitt's performance was one of my favorite star performances, like of the last 20 years, where a movie star came in, reminded you why he was a movie star, and just carries the movie on his shoulders, just carries it. That movie exists because of Brad Pitt.
The film Performance, directed by both Donald Cammell and Nicholas Roth. One of the things I've always loved about this film, though, is James Fox's performance in the film. One of the things that's really interesting to me is he actually gives my favorite British gangster performance of that type. And what's really interesting is I read an interview with James Fox where, his accent, everything is perfect, but I read an interview with James Fox where he said that he didn't know anybody like this. This was a complete figment of his imagination, how he built the character. But it actually is one of the best British gangster Cockney killers in the history of cinema.
Well, you should see the motor.
See the what?
My motor. We had a little argument with a cement wall on the way up from Dover. You didn't break one bone. You don't have a scratch on you.
M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong's Unbreakable.
If you pull that trigger, that bullet is just going to bounce off me and I'm not going to be hurt. But then I'm going to go upstairs and I'm going to pack and I'm going to leave.
Has Bruce Willis's best performance on film that he's ever given. I think he's absolutely magnificent in the film.
Arthur Hiller's The Hospital. George C. Scott's talking about impotency. I don't even think I knew what impotency was. I thought George C. Scott was fucking amazing, even though I didn't understand what he was talking about, or couldn't even understand what Patty Chayefsky was talking about, and I was still mesmerized. We like George C. Scott so much, and we've enjoyed watching his performances on the show this season so much. I actually think George C. Scott gives one of the best performances I've ever seen in my life. Not just, it's just one of the best performances I've ever seen. On one hand, even though I didn't understand what he was talking about, I think I understood that as a little boy. But now, watching it as an older man, I almost feel that there was a quote once that most men end their lives in anguish. And I think that actually is true. I think most men do end their lives in anguish. And I think there's something to George C. Scott's character and to his id that he reveals that once you get older, that is just kind of devastating. I think it's one of the best characters I've ever seen in my life, and I think it's one of the best performances I've ever seen in my life.
Paul Thomas Anderson's There Will Be Blood. Aside from the obvious things like Daniel Day-Lewis's towering performance, there's been so many things already said about Daniel Day-Lewis's performance that I won't just add any more vomitive praise upon it, because there are facts. Water is wet, the sun is hot, and Daniel Day-Lewis in this film is great. Daniel Day-Lewis's performance so embodies the character that you can imagine he did just that.
I can't quite judge Blackula as a horror film, but I loved William Marshall in it. Yeah. Because William Marshall was this really terrific Shakespearean black actor. Blackula it gave him a really great role for him to really giving it his Othello best in it. And I think the rest of the movie is fairly silly, all right? But his performance has a lot of dignity, and he looks magnificent in his outfits. And it's true. It's fun to watch it. And it's fun to watch him beat up the cops. King of New York came out. It sent out a shockwave. It's Larry Fishburne's movie.
as great as Walken is in it. And to me, it was one of the bullet that it was the rock that becomes a diamond aspect of the movie.
Yeah.
It's why I could defend this movie against all comers, because to me, Fish's performance in this movie was comparable to a young Brando. It was the most exciting performance by an actor of his generation that I'd seen in a movie of that time. And I thought, well, that's it. There is a new Marlon Brando, and his name is Larry Fishburne. It was amazing. It was mesmerizing. He's also an interesting thing. He is the first hip hop gangster in movie history. That character had never been done before this. He invented that character, and he invented it as something to do. It wasn't in the original script.
Right.
He came up with that himself.
But maybe who steals that movie is that female in the movie, the kind of the femme fatale, Dana Leigh.
Japanese often like to beat up their wives, wouldn't marry one of them.
Right, she's terrific, and the way she manipulates everybody in the film is wonderful.
Well, it stars Melanie Griffith when she shows up. Well, just like Polly Kael to go, like, you're waiting for this whole movie for something to happen, and when you watch Melanie Griffith, I guess she's it. Well, she comes on like a fucking house on fire when she enters the film. She became a star from that movie.
She did.
She got offered something wild because of Body Double, and then from that it was in Working Girl. Scanners does it great. The bald guy whose head explodes, yeah. As soon as you brought it up, all right, and I realized, because I've actually, he's absolutely the most convincing New Yorker of all the Canadians. All right. All right. He could have his own show called The Super or something like that.
I would watch that.
And I would watch that show. And then you said that, and it just so happens that I'll never forget that bald guy's face in Scanners for as long as I live.
Yeah.
All right. That guy, he sells the idea of Scanners better than Cronenberg does.
Yeah, completely.
Right.
The Jaws sequel, even for people who put down Jaws 2, there is something kind of great in Jaws 2 that can't be denied, and that is getting to watch Roy Scheider play his iconic character, Matt Brody, all right, one more time, just to see him, like, you know, be in the uniform and, like, yeah, playing that iconic character, one more chance at it is pretty cool.
What's your favorite film of Siegel's?
Dirty Harry. I think Andy Robinson actually gives the best performance in any Siegel movie. He was so good that he stalled his career. For 10 years, whenever he showed up in anything else, no, that's Scorpio. The performance was just so earth-shattering. It was just so, he was Scorpio whenever he showed up.